following is a special presentation of the Sports Journey Network. Sports Journey.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back, and the NFL is back.
The NFL is back, and we're back.
Oh, yeah. And we're happy to be back. Post Hurricane Sally, back.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's been quite the week, but I am here with my host, Carita Parks. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think we might be getting some remnants of rain from Sally, but glad everyone down in Florida on the Gulf Coast is okay for the most part. I know it's been a lot of flooding and such, but glad everybody's doing well.
Yeah, it could have been worse. A lot of people have experienced worse.
Yeah.
For myself, it hasn't been too bad. We got walloped though. It was quite the storm. So. And the flooding is what we're dealing with next. So, but we take it in stride, and hopefully we'll have time to recover before and if another one comes. We hope another one does not come.
No, yeah. I think you guys have been battered enough.
We have. And speaking of battering, the NFL is back. And they are playing good ball, considering no preseason games. When you looked at the slate of games and the games you were able to catch, I know you were covering Washington. What did you think?
I was actually surprised at the fact that I thought the teams performed very well without a preseason. I didn't see any difference, which I was anticipating more of a slower start. I think, maybe the first couple of drives you saw some slow starts, but then after that, it just was like a regular football game. So I was very pleased with that and thought it went well, honestly. But then I guess when I really think about it, the starters don't play much in the preseason anyway.
Right.
So truthfully, I know the NFL will never want to admit this and will never do this, but the question is, do we really need a preseason? I mean, coaches were able to make their decisions about who made the roster and who didn't without a preseason, and I don't think that there were any crazy decisions made.
I'll tell you this. The preseason for me is important for special teams and finding those guys that are going to fill out your roster. But you do make a point about how they were able to make these decisions on filling out their roster without having a preseason games. That does lend the fact that they have expanded these rosters, which I think is something that needs to be done. There's no reason why they can't. But I do like the preseason games for special teams. That's why it was one of my keys for the Saints. And it really was a key that you could use for any team. Not every guy can play special teams. You need to know where they fit on the special teams unit. If you don't have preseason games, you're kind of rolling the dice. And some teams paid for it this weekend because their special teams failed them at the wrong time, costing them points in the long run.
i.e. Tennessee.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't say I have kept track of the special teams performances, but that's just the one that I know of. Were there some other ones that has a lot of struggles too that
Saints, capitalized off of a miscue on special teams. It was a block punt. Probably it was the blocking that was horrible. He was able to break through, get clean, and get his hands up to block that ball. Would it have made a factor in them losing, the Buccaneers losing? Maybe not, but there was definitely points that could have been on the board, and that was a momentum shift that went and worked into the Saints' favor. When we talk about all of this stuff, going on, the Washington football team played like a real football team.
They did. They played like the football team, as Kevin Durant said.
Exactly. And they were able to come back from a 17-point deficit. They scored 27. That's right, 27 unanswered points. They were also to put together 8 sacks on the day, 3 turnovers, and 27 unanswered points. And those boys got a win on Sunday, and I did not think that it was possible. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I did pick the Eagles for the first game, but not because, I don't think the team is capable, but without a preseason, I actually, didn't see them in a game time situation. And then, how I know it's new pieces, new coach, but, sometimes you have to get used to the system, like in a game. And so there's a lot of factors involved for that first game, which was the only reason that I picked the Eagles. But I'm glad they proved me wrong. Absolutely. Because they definitely got off to a slow start. But what I really like is the defense made plays and they capitalized on those turnovers, which sometimes doesn't happen. And I even tweeted during the game, I said, this was before I knew that they would actually win it, but they were coming back. And I said this team last season would have never been able to come back.
Absolutely
so
not.
For me, that was already improvement. But then they went on to win the game. So,
Bonus.
I think that we have to be hopeful and excited for what we see. It's only one game, so we can't, run away with it. But I think for people like myself and you who have been covering this team for a long time, we saw improvement, and not just because they won.
Absolutely. I think there were a ton of factors in this that really proves that this team is different. Again, you stated the rallying, the fact that they never gave up. I mean, we've talked about it in the times we've covered this team previously about them having fight. But they showed the true meaning of fight. They never once showed any type of wavering on what they were doing. And when they got behind, there were no hanging heads. They weren't bickering on the sideline. They rallied the troops and got the job done. You look at the run game. They had 80 yards. The defense was able to hold Philly to 57 on 17 attempts. It was 3.4 yards per rush. You'd like to see Washington get better yards per rush. It was only 2.2 yards, but they scored 2 rushing touchdowns on top of that. They had a balanced attack, and I thought the adjustments, yes, I said it, Washington making in-game adjustments. Mm-hmm. That was helpful and something that hasn't been seen over the past 8 years.
It's been a long time.
So they get the win. And we go into this next game against the Arizona Cardinals. What are you looking to see from them in this week 2? And do you think they can pull off a win and get on a 2-game winning streak?
I don't want to bet against them this time since I did the first week. I will go ahead and be on board this week, but it's still going to be a tough challenge. I mean, they have DeAndre Hopkins. That secondary has to deal with him, and he's going to make plays. Like, he's just the type of receiver who will make something out of nothing. So that's going to be a challenge for the secondary. Kyler Murray is a lot more elusive than Carson Wentz. Like, Carson Wentz is, he does move in the pocket, but not the same way that Kyler Murray does. But I think our defense is fast, and I believe that they'll definitely try to capitalize on the pass rush. As far as what I want to see the offense get off to a quicker start. You never really want to be in a position where you have to come back and catch up after like a 17-point deficit. So I like to see them be a little bit more in this game from an offensive perspective, because you can't, even though we have a defense that will make it happen and can make it happen, you don't want to just rely on your defense.
Absolutely.
And they had to do a lot of relying on the defense last week, they did groove. They did catch a groove at a certain point in the game. So, yeah, I definitely want to see. And also, you mentioned the run game. I think the run game was okay, but I'd like to see that also take a step forward.
Absolutely.
In the next. And then I have most of my concerns, I wouldn't say concerns, but most of my comments are on the offense. But that left side of the line was getting beat quite a bit. So I know that'll probably take a little bit more time because, like, Sadiq Charles is just kind of getting off of an injury. But the left side of the line is going to have to hold up a little better going into Arizona.
Absolutely. And I first want to see I want to see the quick start, but I would like to see them be a little bit more creative early in the game. Take advantage of some of the things that you do well, and if they stop you doing that, then that's fine. And I understand you want to establish the run, but they're going to key in to make you pass the football because they don't think you can protect. But you can scheme up things to kind of help that left side of the offensive line early. You can throw some quick things out there, some quick passes. You have some elusive backs that can get involved in the passing game. And I also like to see them use Thomas a little bit more, the tight end, stretching the field in the middle of the field. If you can start doing that, now it opens up things for Terry. And they got to find a way to get Golden Gandy or Gandy Golden the ball.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot that he was even in the game last week. That's a very good point.
And I understand, it's early.
I don't think they targeted him at all.
I don't think so. And I'm going to have the box score up here. And when I'm looking at these wide receivers here, I do not see his name at all.
And he was active.
He was active.
Mm-hmm.
Sims got catches. The backs got catches. Inman got 2 catches. The tight end got 4 catches. So they had only targeted there was only 2 wide receivers that made catches. That was McLaurin and Sims. 3, excuse me, and Inman. So I'd like to see them get the young man involved and be, a little bit more creative with the offense because they have so many versatile weapons. The things that they can do if they can get the ball rolling. So we know what the defense brings. I am a little bit concerned about the cornerback position with D-Hop. But I believe, again, if you get the consistent pass rush and make Kyler throw that thing early, you start getting a little picks like you did last week, and you get more opportunities for that offense, which in turn, hopefully, puts more points on the board. And with that, we will move on to the New Orleans Saints. And the New Orleans Saints coming into this game really had a lot on the line. And both teams did. This is how you kick off the season against the division, and this was a win that the Saints really wanted to have. You start the season off fast. They haven't won their season opener, kind of like the Washington football team here. They were 2-5 in their last 7. They were able to get one. I really liked the way the defense played. Again, another defensive matchup, another defensive stand, an outstanding play by their defense. And the offense got slow. But I'm going to blame Sean Payton for the slow start. And he blamed himself as well. The play calling wasn't terrible. It just wasn't at the right time. Runs were called at poor times when there probably should have been passes, and vice versa. The flow of the game wasn't very well. Overall, though, when your team comes up with interceptions and one resulting in touchdowns, it's a big deal. And I really enjoyed what I saw from them. What do you think that the Saints need to do better going forward?
Well, I think you kind of mentioned it when it comes to, Sean Payton. And I mean, I do have faith that he'll adjust better.
I do too.
But, that may be an example of what we were talking about earlier, where maybe one or two preseason games would have been helpful because it would have knocked some of that rust off. But definitely, I think that having him, do a little better on the play calling next week, especially in the beginning of the game, will definitely be of benefit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that Sean will get it done. No preseason for players and no preseason for coaches. There's a little rust there. And there was a lot on the line. I thought Tom Brady and the Buccaneers looked a lot better than I anticipated. They were in rhythm. He was dropping dimes on that first drive. And it wasn't until the defense tightened up that they made it difficult for them. But even late in that game, if the defense makes a few more mistakes, the Bucs can get back in that game. So I do think
trying to do his Tom Brady thing.
Absolutely. It was getting very close to where he was about ready to flip that thing. But defensively, they played sound. And that's something, if they can carry that forward, will be a catalyst early in this season to get a head start, so to speak, and kind of lead this division. But that win was perfect for them. You want to get a division win early. It's the first game of the season. You're looking to contend for a Super Bowl, and they managed to get it done.
Those are the kind of games. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, those are the kind of games you have to win, your divisional games. And it's kind of not a good situation sometimes when you have to play a divisional opponent, like your first game.
Absolutely.
Even with a preseason.
You can't make any mistakes.
Right. And those were the kind of games that could come back and haunt you later in the season. So it was a good, like you said, a good divisional win because you just don't want to be in a position where later on it's like, man, like if we would have won that first game against Tampa Bay, we'd be in a different position.
Now, there's no Michael Thomas coming into this Monday night matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders at the Death Star. They're coining this thing the Death Star, and I like it. With no Michael Thomas, though, and I've been thinking about this at the beginning of the season, before the season started for the Saints, and I'll ask you this. Do you think Sean Payton needs to make an adjustment in his game plan to kind of fit what they did when they had Teddy Bridgewater come in and have to play for Drew Brees when he was injured?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Thomas is such a huge part of that offense. You have to make some kind of adjustment to replace the kind of production that he brings. I mean, he's such a lethal weapon for them. If people are going to try to take advantage of him not being in the game, so you have to think ahead for sure. And you're going to have to make some kind of adjustment to account for that.
I was thinking the exact same thing. And hopefully, for Saints fans, that's what they do, and they can keep the winning streak going. The Saints will play on Monday night. They will play the Raiders. And Raiders are looking halfway decent. They're not a juggernaut, but they are looking decent and a viable opponent for the New Orleans Saints on Monday night.
Definitely.
Now, a surprise for Floridians and those who are Jacksonville Jaguar fans, the Jacksonville Jaguars win. Yeah, I said the W word. Win 27-20 in a really good game where Gardner Minshew, the mustache, is chucking it all over the field. He was able to 19 of 20. You hear me? 19 of 20, 95%, 142.3 quarterback rating, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 27-20 win over the Colts. And I picked the Colts. There's no way I thought this was happening. I thought Robinson did an excellent job at 62 yards, 3.9 a carry, the average 4 yards per carry. What what happened here, Karita?
Hey, I wish I knew. But honestly, one, we have to see how this progresses going forward. But clearly, Jay Gruden drew up a game plan that fit Gardner Minshew's strengths, but also everyone else on that offense. So, got to give him credit for that. But, you know, it can be a catch-22, right? Because you have all of these young guys. Nobody thought they would win because they have, like, rookies and some, maybe second-year players. Not a lot of veterans. I mean,
Right.
DJ Shark, I guess, is like DJ Shark is kind of like one of their veterans, and he's not that old.
No.
So that's one of the reasons no one thought that they would win. But maybe that fresh new blood is something that Jacksonville needed, because there were some bad apples. You had Jalen Ramsey last year who was cutting up. There was, I can't remember. Oh, Yannick Ngakoue.
Yes.
So many people were like just negative.
They lost Calais Campbell. Excuse me.
Lost Calais Campbell, and he wasn't negative, but he was a huge loss.
Huge.
And then Leonard Fournette, who had his moments where he was negative. So they got those guys, and they just have a fresh group who maybe don't have any fear. You know, it's just like if you really think about it, they're all trying to prove themselves. Like, prove that they belong in the NFL, prove that they can have a spot. So I think it had a lot to do with that, honestly, a good game plan and just guys out there trying to prove themselves.
And did you know that the Jacksonville Jaguars were balanced that game? They had 20 passing attempts and 23 rushing attempts. Jay Gruden, offense, balance. Those words don't go together, but they were here on this weekend and got them a win?
I know.
What?
I'm a firm believer that some people are better as coordinators than they are coaches.
Agreed.
And I will have to see, but that might be his case. He may be a better coordinator than he is a coach. But, like, big up to those guys. I mean, Tennessee is not going to be an easy matchup. That's who they see next. And it's never an easy matchup for Jacksonville. Jacksonville seems to always just lose their – I'm from Jacksonville, as you know, but I don't know if our listeners know that. And since the beginning of time, I'm talking about back when Steve McNair was the quarterback, Jacksonville has always had problems with Tennessee. It doesn't matter who is on the roster. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It's the weirdest thing to me. They always have problems with Tennessee. So I am hoping that we can shock the Titans and shock ourselves again.
Indeed. It's going to be a great matchup, I believe.
It's going to be tough.
With the quarterbacks, you know, it's kind of hard to say anybody's playing better than anybody so early, and especially with no preseason. But you really have to like the performance. You like the game plan that was drawn up. And honestly, that's the kind of game plan you have to come in here with a Tennessee team that is a very balanced. They have strong running games, strong quarterback play. It's amazing to see what Tannehill's doing with this football team. And I'm really looking forward to this game, actually. And I think it's going to be one of the better ones this Sunday.
I don't even know. I can't watch that game. I could watch Jacksonville play a lot of teams, but watching them play the Titans just works my nerves.
It's like Washington fans watching Dallas.
Because just like, I don't know if they're going to, I just never know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know if they're going to be in it. I don't know if they're just going to get mollywopped. Like, I have no idea. But I am hoping it's a good game. I'm hoping that they put up a fight. I mean, these new guys, they don't have any connection with Tennessee, but neither did some of the other team. You know what I mean? Because it was always different.
Exactly.
So hopefully they can stand up to it, and that'll be a good test for them. And my thing with Tennessee is they're coming off of, yes, they won Monday night, but it wasn't convincingly, and it wasn't their best performance. So they're coming off of that, probably trying to prove that they can play better, especially going to the AFC Championship last year. So I think it's going to be a game.
That game is going to be at 12 o'clock. So 1 o'clock Eastern. I say 12 because I am on Central Time. But it will be 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys are interested in seeing that game, make sure you catch it on CBS. Before we close this NFL segment, what is your big takeaway from week one?
Biggest takeaway from week one, regardless of a preseason, these teams still competed very well. And I was really happy to see that. Obviously, some adjustments will need to be made for some folks, but it was a pretty good week one as far as I'm concerned. And I guess my other biggest takeaway is everybody stayed healthy.
Yeah. Isn't that surprising? All these people, all these, the dark doom and gloom that all these injuries are going to happen, and really wasn't that bad at all.
Well, COVID, too.
That, too. And I think the NFL is setting an example here, and we'll see how it goes as they add more fans. And my takeaway is that when you don't have preseason, coaching staffs can't be lazy. And I didn't see any team have a coaching staff that was lazy at all. You can say what you want about the Browns. I think that's the quarterback problem. He's still not there. Between the ears is not clicking. But outside of that, these teams were well prepared. And it was a chess match for all teams, and it was just to play better. And I thought it was an excellent week one.
Excellent.
And with that, we will go to a break. And when we come out of the break, we're going to go into the NBA. All on the breakdown. And we are back, and the NBA and the Los Angeles Clippers, not so good at all. I don't know how you blow a 15-point lead in Game 7. You have three stars, a solid bench, a potentially Hall of Fame coach, and you tank and you lose a 3-1 lead and find yourselves gone fishing. What happened and who's to blame, Carita?
Well, I think everybody's a bit to blame, at least on the Clippers side. I mean, the coaching, you have to put some blame on the coaching, even if it is Doc. And then even with the players, I mean, you can't allow a team to come back like that. Like you said, in Game 7, especially when the Clippers have a lot more experience than the Nuggets. That just shouldn't happen. So in my opinion, a little bit of everybody is to blame. I don't think there's one person.
Right. My mama thinks that Doc Rivers should be fired. She was texting me heavily during that game and feels that he should be fired. I don't think he should be fired, but I always have had a problem with Paul George and a lot of the others on that team, that they're so inconsistent. In big moments, they don't always show up. One of them usually shows up, but it's never all three. And it's never for an entire game. It's for pieces of games.
Right.
You can't have that. And that's not on coaching. That's on players and want to. Now, you either got it or you don't. And I think that's been a little bit of an issue for Kawhi as well. He's not absolved for any blame here or anything like that. It definitely was a team effort. But Denver was more hungry. It comes down to want to. And they just thought that they were just going to roll out the old LA Clipper logo and win a ball game. That's not how it works. All right? And that team was hungry from the beginning, and you just thought because you had more talent, you were just going to out finesse them and bully them around, and they weren't scared of you,
No.
and they whooped you.
I mean, these bubble teams, these young bubble teams, are not scared at all.
No.
I mean, we've been seeing that throughout the playoffs. And, you know, a lot of people called it as a Clippers, Lakers finals. And, I mean, I just think even from the beginning when the Clippers got in the bubble, they were struggling.
Yes.
I mean, they had games that were good, don't get me wrong, but they had games where they struggled, but it was kind of like, you shouldn't be struggling like this.
Right.
So I know we're surprised because it was the Clippers, but if you look at the history of their bubble play, it shouldn't be extremely surprising.
Yeah, and the Lakers struggled too. They finally got it together. The Clippers were waffling around, and now they get to be the first team to blow a 3-1 lead and lose a 7-game series. And Doc Rivers is also the first coach to blow a 3-1 lead and lose in Game 7 to go home and organize your fishing trip.
That's embarrassing. And I know people are calling, I don't know if he should be fired necessarily, but that's embarrassing.
It is.
3-1. Like, there's no way that should have happened.
No way.
No way that should have happened. Especially with a younger team, more inexperienced than you. But like you said, they were hungry. But they were so hungry, they came back from a 3-1 deficit.
Yes.
Like, so kudos to Denver.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Denver. And that series will, the Western Conference Finals will take place tomorrow. Game 1 is tomorrow, 8 o'clock, TNT, Lakers, Nuggets. Who you got, and what do you think about the series?
I think it's going to be a good series. I think Denver is going to continue fighting. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It's just so hard to choose. I don't do good at these predictions, clearly.
Neither do I. I'll give you time to think. I'm going to go Nuggets. And I want to say Lakers, but I'm going to go Nuggets. It's reverse psychology, first off. You know, I mean, I can be a fan on this one. I am a Lakers fan, but I'm going to go Nuggets. But I do think the Lakers are going to win, and this is why. They're bigger. Yeah. Nuggets can't finesse this big team. The size that the Lakers have is going to be a problem. Now, the question is, are they going to be able to have the ball movement to keep these big guys away from the basket and kind of open up the lanes a little bit? That's my concern with the Nuggets, but I believe in a 7-game series, they better get off to a quick start and put the Lakers backs against the wall. If they do what they did against the Clippers, Lakers are putting them away. Simple as that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lakers only because, like you said, they're bigger and they are the Lakers, and we saw them play and they're hungry too. And I really do believe they're going to find a way to win. But I would love to see the Nuggets pull the upset just because I am more for the underdog. But the reason I'm going to pick the Lakers is because I've been pretty consistent thinking it might be them, except for when Portland. I thought Portland
Me too.
would knock them off. So at that point, I kind of changed. But I'm just going to stay consistent with my picks throughout the postseason. But I wouldn't be mad at all if Denver was able to pull it off.
I wouldn't be mad either because I am a fan. But at the end of the day, I got a job to do. So if they do lose, it is what it is. But I want my Lakers to win. Now, there's the Eastern Conference Finals game, which started today. And if you're listening to this tomorrow, it was on Thursday. The score is 71-65 in the third. I'm going to take the Celtics in this series. I think they're more polished. They're a little hungry. My only problem is this series goes as Tatum goes. If Tatum is not consistent and he doesn't show up every night and has these times where he ends up missing, if it's at the wrong time, it could cost them the series. But I am going to take the Celtics. I know our guy and our teammate Serge will like that, but I'm going to take the Celtics in this one. What say you?
I'm going with the Heat. And I know that they don't have as many weapons as the Celtics. But I think they're hungry too. And Jimmy Butler, I think that if he has to put that team on his back, he's going to do it. That man is a dog. I wouldn't go against him. So I'm rolling with Miami on this one.
That'll work. She's going with Miami. There you go. We'll see who wins this one since we are not picking the same one. I do agree with you. I think Miami is, again, another young team like Denver who's hungry. They've played scrappy all the way here. If they do lose tonight, I do fear what the Celtics will experience down the road because it seems like if they take a loss, they take it personal. And then they come back and they level you by punching you in the face repeatedly.
And I mean, Miami's coach, I don't think he gets the recognition that he probably should. But that man is a good coach. And he's won
Eric Spoelstra.
championship too.
Exactly.
So, but Boston's balling. I mean, I will say, to me, this particular series is it's an extremely good matchup.
It is.
And I think it's either way. But I like this series. You know, the Denver Lakers matchup, I don't see that necessarily as like, I see it as what it is. But I don't see that like, oh, that's a good matchup. But Miami and the Celtics, I think, are a great matchup.
It's going to be like a boxing match. It's going to be some heavy blows thrown. It's going to be a slobber knocker for sure.
Yeah.
And that will end this segment of the NBA talk. And we just got a little bit of time in this show, and we're going to come back and talk about the Mystics. Unfortunate set of circumstances for them, but hey, they almost weren't even here. But we're going to talk about what happened when we come back from the break. And we are back. And the Washington Mystics made it to the playoffs. And it was short-lived, unfortunately, as they took a loss, and a disappointing loss, and a close game to the Phoenix Mercury, 85-84. And, man, all of what the Mystics had to do to get here, all the different things that they experienced, their top ladies not being there due to COVID concerns, which we all know is absolutely understandable. They fought really hard. It was a last shot that took them out. What are your thoughts on the game and where they failed to execute?
That fourth quarter was not their best quarter. I mean, they allowed, essentially down the stretch, they allowed Phoenix to get back in the game. You know, the defense wasn't as strong as it was throughout the game, and they, you know, weren't necessarily making the same shots that they were making leading up to that point. So that fourth quarter definitely killed them, but they still could have definitely won that game. I mean, really, they should have won that game. It just came down to that last-minute shot.
Absolutely. And when you look at the numbers, they held them well in the first half. 16 points, 19 points in the second quarter. They had 24 points even in the third. That fourth quarter where Washington tanked to 14 points, and allowed 26, that really was the dagger that hurt them. That 14 points was tough.
Man, they fought to the end. Even I was hurt. And not because they lost, it was the way they lost. Former teammate Shea Petty made that last minute 3, and it was just like, man, like that was just a terrible way to lose.
It really is. But kudos to the Mystics for the hard work that they put in, despite not having all of their, weapons on the court. They really did rally and play the best that they could. They faltered in tough moments, but overall, you have to really give those ladies a round of applause for what they put together to get the team at least in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they were unable to be rewarded for their hard work.
Yeah, like you said, they fought back. They had a 7-game losing streak at one point in the season, followed by like a 5-game losing streak. So they really had a tough season just trying to find their identity. And then they finally did at the right time, and it just came up short at the end.
I believe next season they'll be able to fight a lot harder. I think it's going to be a whole different ball game. They're going to have a nasty attitude. And if I'm any WNBA team, I'm really not looking forward to next season. So people should relish in the fact that they got a chance to basically play a wounded championship team, because next year they're not going to take any prisoners at all. They're coming full force.
Yep, they'll have they should, as long as the season is a normal season, they should have all of their folks back that didn't make it to Orlando, plus the folks that came this year. And I think it'll be, like you said, they come in with a vengeance.
Absolutely. And that is all for the show, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for listening. And, without you, this stuff doesn't happen. So we thank you so much. Check out the new logo, guys. Finally got Carita's name on there. And I'm happy to have that. Definitely happy to have her here. She is an excellent addition to the team. She makes me better. So that is
same
special.
Here. You make me better, so it works.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly.
All right, tell them where they can find you at, Carita.
You can find me on social media, Twitter and IG at Carita C. Parks. You can also follow my sports platform, Double Take Sports, at dbltakesports.com, where you can find my writing. You can also find my writing on sportsjourney.com.
And it's a great site, great writing as well. And you can find me at NotBland21 on everything. The work is at sportsjourney.com. Yes, I am covering the Saints. I contribute now to the Washington Redskins. So I say hello, Who Dat Nation. And hopefully we can provide you with the great coverage and contribute to that great coverage of the New Orleans Saints. Also,
and I know we have to go, but I have to say this very quickly.
Go ahead.
Kudos to you for writing the article in response to Dak Prescott and really opening up about mental health and like depression. I think it was much needed. So kudos to you. Can't let that go.
Thank you so much, Carita. And it's something that I have always felt it's something that should be talked about. I've been shy about talking about it. It's not easy. But I feel like this is the beginning of me being able to continue to shed light on this. So I appreciate you, Carita, for it's a blessing to have the platform that you have. And I was able to put it on that platform and bring attention to that subject. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. And we thank you. And we will see you next week, or talk to you next week, here on The Breakdown.